Сегодня принято считать,
Today, it is commonly accepted that the ancient Roman politician, general, and writer Gaius Julius Caesar supposedly lived in the 1st century BC. The strangest thing, which few people know, is that the father of Gaius Julius Caesar was also named Gaius Julius Caesar. And his grandfather too, Gaius Julius Caesar. And his great-grandfather, Gaius Julius Caesar. Nothing but Gaius, all Julius, and all Caesars. It's not a lineage, but clones. A bit like in the movie, Hello, I Am Your Aunt. There are so many Pedro in Brazil, it's difficult to count them. One could get the impression that the imagination of the Italian forgers of the 16th century who invented antiquity during the Renaissance stopped at the names. They proliferated under a single name, the entire line of the Julius. It's funny, but that's not the main thing. It is unnecessary to discuss the official biography of Gaius Julius Caesar in detail. It was invented in the 16th century by Italian fraudsters. What's particularly remarkable is that Gaius's biography mentions invented, supposedly ancient figures. The former teacher Marcus Antonius Gnevin, the Roman orator Cicero, the Roman writer Pliny the Elder, and many others. Individuals who never existed. How can one seriously discuss Caesar's biography if all the figures in his life were invented by the scammers of the Renaissance? I have already explained this in detail several times. Well, let's not dwell on sad things, let's continue. The most interesting thing is that Gaius Julius Caesar was first mentioned in the 16th century. Before the 16th century, no one had ever heard of this great general, dictator, and writer. Indeed, he appeared with the Italian forgers by whom he was invented, who sold alleged ancient works on the glorious past to many gullible antiquity collectors. The boom of antiquity truly began at the end of the 15th and the beginning of the 16th century. As they say, demand creates supply. And so, in Italy, many workshops began to produce alleged ancient manuscripts and create alleged ancient sculptures and other artifacts. So, what is it really like? Was Gaius Julius Caesar from ancient Rome a fictional character? Yes, and no. Yes, the story of Gaius Julius Caesar, from beginning to end, is an invention. But he had a real prototype at the end of the 15th and the beginning of the 16th century, from which his image, including part of his biography, was widely copied. And who was this unknown person? It was the famous Italian, French general, astrologer, physician, and writer of the 16th century, Julius Caesar Scaliger, the father of the founder of the false modern historical chronology, Joseph Scaliger. The father of Joseph Scaliger, Julius Caesar, began his career not as a scholarly physician or astrologer, but as a military man. Julius Caesar Scaliger participated in the series of Italian wars between 1494 and 1559, involving France, Spain, the Holy Roman Empire, and the Ottoman Empire for control of Italy. He was a high-ranking officer and commanded the main Spanish forces. During these years, he distinguished himself as an exceptional general, and even his contemporaries praised him for his literary talents. In fact, it is precisely from him, in the 16th century, that the presumed image of the ancient general and writer Gaius Julius Caesar was borrowed. Some may wonder, but what about the many ancient coins with the image of Julius Caesar? This proves the existence of a presumed ancient leader. I may disappoint many. The question is not if antiquity never existed. Antiquity was the time of our Middle Ages, the time of the Renaissance. Well, the father of Joseph Scaliger, Julius Caesar, came from a very wealthy and noble family, belonging to the prestigious lineage of the Ghibellines. His ancestors ruled Verona, Veneto, and a part of northern Italy for over 125 years. The leaders of the Scaliger family were called dictators. All representatives of this lineage minted their own currency, which was highly esteemed not only in the Mediterranean countries, but also in Europe. The father of Joseph Scaliger, Julius Caesar, was the last to mint his own coin, bearing his own portrait and name. So, the alleged ancient coins of the Roman general Julius Caesar were probably the coins of Joseph Scaliger's father, General Julius Caesar from the 16th century. In fact, Julius Caesar Scaliger from the 16th century only began to wear a beard in his later years when he devoted himself to scientific research. And when he was in the army and commanding troops, he carefully shaved his face, as was the custom in Europe at the time. So the clean-shaven face of the supposed ancient Caesar actually corresponds to the face of the 16th century general. As for the laurel wreath crown on the head, it is not an attribute of antiquity, as many believe. This symbol of glory and triumph was worn by almost all European emperors, governors, and generals of the medieval era and even the Renaissance. Next, to better clarify all of this, I will present you with some interesting links between the biography of the ancient Caesar and that of Jules from the 16th century. Compare them yourself. The ancient Gaius Julius Caesar came from an old Roman patrician family of noble lineage. Scaliger's father, Julius Caesar, came from a wealthy Italian family called Della Scala, or Scaliger, belonging to a distinguished Italian lineage. The ancient Gaius Julius Caesar fought for over 8 years in Italy, on the territory of present-day Spain, Switzerland, France, Belgium, and Germany during the Gallic War, annexing a vast territory to the Roman Republic, extending from the Atlantic Ocean to the Rhine, and gaining the reputation of a brilliant general. Scaliger's father also participated in military campaigns in Italy, Spain, France, Germany, and the Netherlands, also gaining the reputation of a talented general. How did the presumed ancient Gaius Julius Caesar's career begin? At the beginning of the year 61 BC, Caesar traveled to Spain, the westernmost province of the Roman Republic, where he was appointed deputy governor of Spain and took command of the local army. And how did the military career of Scaliger's father begin? At the beginning of the 16th century, Julius Caesar Scaliger traveled to Spain and entered into the service of the local ruler with the title of captain, taking under his command the main forces of the Spanish army. For your information, until the mid-16th century, the title of captain was granted to the commanders-in-chief of large armies, which would be equivalent to the rank of a modern general. Such a title was only awarded in recognition of exceptional merits. After the military reform in the second half of the 16th century, the captain as the commander of a company became a common military rank in the army. Gaius Julius Caesar's first baptism of fire was the battle against the insurgent Gauls in the south of modern-day France. Then, Gaius Julius Caesar crushed the Germanic tribes on the Rhine. Well, the first baptism of fire of Scaliger's father was also a battle against the French in the south of France. Then, Scaliger also fought against German troops on the Rhine. In the year 47 BCE, the ancient Gaius Julius Caesar traveled with his armies to the kingdom of Pontus, which threatened the Roman Empire from the east. For information, the kingdom of Pontus would later become the Ottoman Empire. Similarly, Scaliger's father also commanded vast troops in wars against the Ottoman Empire, and so on. In the end, the ancient Gaius Julius Caesar returned to his homeland as a triumphant victor. Similarly, Scaliger's father, Julius Caesar, after a great victory in the Battle of Ravenna, was knighted by the Roman Emperor himself and returned to his homeland with immense honors.
И с огромными почестями вернулся на родину.
In addition to his political and military activities, the ancient Gaius Julius Caesar is also known as a writer. The simplicity and clarity of his writing style are considered classics of ancient Roman literature. Similarly, Scaliger's father, Julius Caesar, made a name for himself as a writer after his military service. His talent was admired by prominent figures of his time, including the poet Shakespeare, the mathematician Gottfried Wilhelm Leibniz, the English philosopher Francis Bacon, the astronomer Johannes Kepler, and many other influential figures.
римского календаря.
Finally, the ancient Julius Caesar is also the author of the reform of the Roman calendar, which led to the famous Julian calendar. Nevertheless, there is a version that claims the Julian calendar was invented in the 16th century, Julius Caesar Scaliger, and was named after his father, Julius Scaliger, the Julian calendar. His son invented a new world chronology, while his father, Julius Caesar Scaliger, was a renowned and talented astrologer. He effortlessly devised a new calendar, which was later deliberately extended to elongate history and attributed to the fictional ancient Gaius Julius Caesar.
Вот такая набор.
This is how our noble history unfolds. The further we go, the more complex it becomes. And how do you then explain the history of the ancient Greeks and Romans to children?